this example before, but if I say, Prabhu, can I use half of your bottle of water there? It's simple. But if I say, can I use 150th of 300 part of that bottle? I've still said half of the bottle, but I've overcomplicated it. If I say, can I have half of your pie? Yeah, sure. But if I say, can you give me, I don't know, 76 part of 152 part of the pie? Radhika Prasad, can we just settle down here? Do you need half of a pie? Yeah, just say that for God's sake. so parsimony is building all this big complex wealth of knowledge and putting it in simplified knowledge, simplistic term that we can explain. Which is the reason Kapila Muni is one of the most extraordinary. What he did, this sum total of knowledge, he places into this Akhya in an expressible terms. And the culmination of this Sankhya is Bhakti Yoga. The culmination of all this plethora of range of knowledge. Divisions of universes, anatomy of our bodies, subtle forms, and the gross bodies, senses and senses objects always interacting. So all this plethora of knowledge can be placed into simplistic terms. So that's why it's called Sankhya. And which is the reason Kapila Muni, if we don't, it's not hyperbole, or it's not some kind of exaggeration. But if we don't get Sankhya right, it can be very difficult. The devotional path can be extremely difficult. Because we need to understand ourselves. We need to understand others. I need to see all of you as Atmas. And I need to see myself as a conscious entity. So Sankhya helps us see this, analyze what's going on in this world, what's going on in this material world. So it's very important to get Sankhya, and it's not random that right in the beginning of the incarnations, the first comprehensive is Kapila Muni. If we get this, it'll be a smooth flow. Is it okay? So far, so good. So yeah, if I lose you somewhere, just stop me. Okay, let's do this. So, third canto, 24th chapter, verse number 23. Yeah, we do this. Okay, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Param, transcendental. Pradhanam, supreme. Purusham, person. Interesting that there's same words, cognate. Purusham, person. Person in English, in Sanskrit, and person in English, they're cognate. Did you know that? Very interesting. And even param is in English. Paragliding, paranormal, all the words that come in English like para, that comes from Sanskrit, param. Okay, anyway, just a little linguistic. Mahantam also comes into English. Mega, H becomes G through German. So when you hear mega lotteries, megastasis, Magna Carta, all these magna, comes from Sanskrit word maha. Mahantam, who is the original of the material world? Kalam, who is time? Kavim, fully cognizant. Trivritam, three modes of material nature. Again, Trivritam is in English. Three just as three, 1, 2, 3 number. Vritam comes as word, extrovert, introvert, and all that. Lokapalam. Who is the maintainer of all the universes? Lokapalam is in English as well. Loka comes into English as location. Palam comes into English as police. Metropolis, politan, all these words. Atma in himself. Anubhutya by internal potency. Anugata dissolve. Prapancham whose material manifestation. Swachanda independently. Shaktim who is powerful. Kapilam to Lord Kapila. Prapadye I surrender. Very nice. Param pradhanam purusham mahantam. Kalam kavim trivrutam lokapalam. Atmanubhutya anugata prapancham. Swachanda shaktim kapilam prapadye. Param pradhanam purusham mahantam. Kalam kavim trivratam lokapalam. Atmanubhutya anugata prapancham. Swachanda shaktim kapilam prapadye. All yours. Param pradhanam purusham mahantam. Trivrita lokapalam. Atmanubhutya anugata prapancham. Swachanda shaktim kapilam prapadye. Param pradhanam purusham mahantam. Kalam kavim trivratam lokapalam. Atmanubhutya anuprapancham. Swachanda shaktim kapilam prapadye. Param pradhanam purusham mahantam. Kalam kavim trivrutam lokapalam. Atmanubhutya anugata prapancham. Swachanda shaktim kapilam prapadye. Okay, is my voice okay? Everybody here? Okay. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumitamena Tasmai Shri Vande Nandavajasrinam Padrinam Abhikshnasha Yasam Harikatodgitam Punati Bhuvanatryam. Okay, let's take this. I surrender unto the translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, descended in the form of Kapila, who is independently powerful and transcendental, who is the Supreme Person and the Lord of the sum total of matter and the element of time, who is fully cognizant, maintainer of all the universes, under the three modes of material nature, and who absorbs the material manifestations after their dissolution. Okay, so just a quick recap. Kardama Muni, after a long penance, something like 10,000 celestial years, finally has a very good audience of Vishnu Bhagavan himself in his 8 armed form. And during this encounter, Vishnu Bhagavan tells him that I'm going to appear in your family. So just this particular appearance is so that I can just relax your anxiety about the progenation. Because this is, I may have mentioned before, these kind of topics in scriptures are categorized under something called Genesis. Did I mention this before? Maybe I did. So there is a big chapter in, there's a big content in even Bible. It's called Genesis, where God breathes over the water of the universe, and then everything comes into existence. It's almost so similar to Garbhodaksha Vishnu on the water of the universe. And God breathes over the waters of the universe, and then everything comes. And they show it comes in 6 days, but obviously 6 days is not our days. That's Brahma's days. So Genesis is an extremely important topic. It explains the birth of the universe, birth of us. So every scripture has to go into these kind of details. So Param Pradhanam. So the first, we spoke about a lot of Genesis, and as Prajapati, Kardama Muni had a lot of burden on his shoulders. But at the same time, he was struggling because he was an absolutely, completely detached. Detached is a better word. So he was completely detached, but at the same time, he had his order from Brahma to help facilitate the progenation of the universe. So he went this extreme austerity. Finally, Bhagavan Vishnu comes to him and he says, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come as incarnation as Kapila, and I'm going to help propagate this knowledge. So we are at a verge where this Kapila has actually appeared. And Kardama Muni is giving his glorifications and prayers. It's not unusual. Even when you have a guest or I have a guest, and it's a distinguished guest, they come home and we're introducing to our family members, like Meera is my daughter there. Sometimes someone comes, yesterday we were at a stall and some qualified, educated people came, and I was introducing Meera. So this is a scholar in this particular field, and she's an English lady, like bred and like thorough English. What do we call in Australia? Poms. Poms. Is that what we call? Poms. So just thoroughbred Pomish English. And she's a Sanskrit scholar, and she's done very long philosophy, and just 2 seconds I just did a glorification. She's from England, distinguished scholar, she's a Sanskrit teacher. It's just normal, it's nothing so exaggerated. So now that Kapila Muni has come, Kardama Muni is offering his glorifications, showing his gratitude, identifying that his words, like recollecting Vishnu's words, that you said you were going to come, now you're here. So it's like, thanks very much for keeping your word, keeping your promise. This is what's going on. So finally, Kapila Muni is here, and these are the glorifications. Yeah? So we'll do the glorification, but I'm going to stop here and there like I always do. I'm going to just stop and just delve into the matter a little bit. But before I delve into this matter of Sankhya philosophy, do you mind if I give you a quick introduction how Sankhya may work in our academic worlds, in our modern contemporary worlds? Do you think that will help? Should we? Okay, yeah. So this is, like I said, I'm working on compiling a book. It's called Atma Paradigm, and I cover a lot of Sankhya. But I like to put them into broadly 4 categories. Sankhya, to explain Sankhya, I like to put them into 4 broad categories. The first category that I'm trying to put that into this book, I help Bhaktivedanta Institute to put all these things. The first thing I do is the first thing we have to, like Descartes, you heard of Descartes, René Descartes, the French philosopher. So he came up with this word called cogito ergo sum. So he went into these meditations and he wanted to come up with a priori knowledge. He was very concerned with epistemology, the science of knowledge. And Descartes was extremely concerned with a priori knowledge. Not a subjective thing, not a dogma in religious texts, not the I'm the only way and the opening to the gate, and if you don't believe me, you're going to the, lake of fire, and not dogmas. Epistemology is the knowledge of science. How do you verify? How do you know you know? If you give a Krishna consciousness class, someone has good reasonable right, entitled to ask you, how do you know you know? How do you know all this? How can you verify this? Okay, it's in the book, and you're trying to be faithful and fidel to your tradition. But how do you know you know? So Descartes went into very intense meditations, and he came up and came something called, in French, it's called cogito ergo sum. Cogito means I think, ergo sum means therefore I am. So he said, I can deny everything else around this world if I want to. But one thing I cannot deny is my consciousness. I'm thinking, therefore I am. So that's a priori knowledge. The a priori is my existence. And then everything else usually come into what's called second order thinking. So the first order thinking, the a priori knowledge, is that I'm a conscious entity. So Sankhya first deals with that. You are a conscious entity. Then you have the layers and the subtle body and all that. So Max Planck, John Searle, Roger Penrose, all these Mark Soames, these are all like stalwart on consciousness studies. So what they're saying is consciousness is primary and everything else is derivative. It has actually been proven academically, empirically. I need at least 36 classes to do this like really comprehensively. So 1 hour is really pretty tough, but I'll try my best. So consciousness is primary and everything is derivative. I can prove to you, it's impossible to be your body. I can peel it and put in front of you. It's impossible to be your body. There is more possibility for you to be a conscious entity. And it's much more flexible, it's much more versatile. My daughter was asking, we were in New Zealand, I was on a cruise. We were in Ekaro and we were on a dolphin cruise. And I was telling her, imagine if you're here and you had a service and you could just take up a dolphin's body and jump into this water and do that service of Krishna. And then all of a sudden you come out and you had a service of a bird and you take up this bird's body and then you fly and then you do Krishna's service. And I said to Meera, isn't that amazing? And Meera turned to me and said, Dad, are you saying our original form is versatility? Is that what you're saying? I said, bingo. Our original form is versatility, a conscious entity, an Atma, a versatility to be able to conduct Krishna's service anywhere we are. It doesn't have to be Sydney, it doesn't have to be Africa, it doesn't have to be Satyaloka, it doesn't have to be heaven, it doesn't have to be anywhere we are. Our original position is to carry this versatility as an Atma to conduct Krishna's mission, Krishna's service, and help everybody else to realize the potential that their original form is versatility as a conscious entity. Imagine how this world would be. Imagine how Oxford would look like. Imagine how Cambridge would look like. Imagine how Yale would look like. Imagine how Princeton would look like. Imagine how University of New South Wales would look like. We can take this Sankhya into the academics. It's possible. We just need to find the right language. Someone was asking me, I was in a New Zealand retreat, someone was asking me, Prabhu, we've heard from you like really hammering on this. We need to let people relate to us. We need to allow people to relate to us. We need to. What do you mean? What do I mean? I'll just do it quickly. After a long lives in a particular tradition, without unconsciously the mind programs, and we start to use kind of a cliched jargons of that belonging to that particular tradition. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a stepping stone. But at some stage we have to come out, and then we put this world outside into categories. This karmi category, this Kali Yuga categories, this Maya categories, this slaughter universities or slaughterhouses categories. And what we're doing is we're alienating ourselves and we're alienating others from us. We need to help people relate to us. So imagine it is possible. I'm a hopeless optimist. I'm an absolutely hopeless optimist. I can see this Sankhya going into Oxford. I can see this Sankhya going into Cambridge. I can see Sankhya going into UTS. It is possible. All we need is the right language. Right language, what I'm trying to say, is contemporary language that people can relate, understand. So the first part was consciousness is primary and everything else is derivative. It's coming straight from universities, Max Planck, Roger Penrose, Mark Soames, Michael Egner. Refer anybody. They'll say, tick box on that, Radhika Prasad, no problem. That's first level of Sankhya. We're not this body. I can prove to you. 100%. Any scholar. 2 is, if we are not this matter, if we are a conscious entity, how the bloody God's hell is matter and conscious entities, atmas, interacting? Because consciousness is a different ontology. I cannot, did I use this example before? If I come and asked you, give me a 5 blue kgs of justice. Can't do that. Or if I say, give me green 5 kilo green bags of love. Can't do that. So mind, matter, love, justice, values, they belong to a different ontology. But I can tell you, bring me 5 kilos of plywood. You can do that. This is a different ontology. So if this is a different ontology, and the consciousness and the subtle material body we're talking, if they're completely different ontology, how on God's planet are they interacting? Where do you draw this interaction? How do you surmise this? How do you comprehend this? That's the second level of Sankhya. First, conscious entity. Consciousness is derivative. Second, how are they actually interacting? This is second level of Sankhya. We've got to really get a hold of this. We've got to get a hang on this. Number 3 is biological, anatomical. So if we are a conscious entity, what are these various species? Why are these various facilities? What are these birds? What are these flying objects? What is these reptiles? Why are we in a human body? What is these cycles? Gene variations, like evolution. I know evolution has got a really, really, really bad press after the neo-Darwins taken up Darwin's project and they completely messed it up. Really. I mean, sorry to say if there's any biologists here, but they really messed it up because Darwin never meant it the way it has come out. It's usually the disciples that take it far. Like even if you go to Buddhism, Buddha never told there is no soul. It's Nagarjuna who messed it. So you can do this to like every single Shankaracharya. He never, there's no God. He never said that. So usually these disciples, the later like 3-4 generation disciples, they usually take it more far than even Guru intended. If Guru came alive and saw, Like Buddha came and saw Nagarjuna and said, Nagarjuna, what are you doing? I'm propagating your knowledge. Not exactly. So usually that happens. So in the same sense, we're talking about man and matter interactions, right? So it is nobody denies. No, I was using something else. I lost something. Was I talking about mind and matter interactions? Thank you. Darwin. So Darwin never said there's no God because did I tell you his wife was in the church committee. So if he want nice dinner at home and doesn't have to sleep in the garage, I don't think he would have said something so stupid like that. He never said that. His wife was in the church committee, like one of the very prominent members. So if he comes home and his wife says, I felt God today, there's only one answer he would give. Yes, honey. So I think married people will know how essential that word is. Yes, dear. He took it a little too far, like his later generation. So the third part of Sankhya is explaining these gene variations. All he did is he just observed some variations in genes. There is a class of scientists called Evo Devos. You heard of them? Evo Devos. Google them later on. Yeah, like I said, if I'm using anything that you haven't heard, just stop me and I'll explain. Evo Devos are this new group of scientists, very important and very significant. What they say, what they've come up with, what they actually proved is our genes already has the potential to transform into different varieties of morphologies. Our genes already has that inbuilt capacity. It is possible. So if you see some black crows going like a white crow somewhere, it's not like new species, or it's not like evolution doing its magic. No. There is already a mechanism, a potential in a black crow genes to become a white under particular circumstances. It's not like magic or something. So Evo Devos, they're called. So what they do, they actually prove that in our genes there is potential for very strong variations. So if you say Waterworld, do you remember the movie Waterworld by Kevin Costner? No, now I'm telling my age. Kevin Costner, remember he has these little gills behind his ears and he jumps deep into the ocean and he keeps bringing all these little survival facilities from the ocean. And then he'll make a lot of money and bartering, exchanging for resources by doing this. So he has this, obviously it's a science fiction, and Steven Spielberg, you don't expect anything less from him. So he's got these gills behind his ears and he can act like a fish. So I'm not saying human beings will become fishes. What I'm trying to say is our genes have already this potential for variations. That's all he did. He never saw a dolphin changing into a giraffe. Trust me. I'll bet my bottom dollar in the wallet. He never saw a dolphin changing into a giraffe. Never happened. It'll never happen. Nobody lived that long. So just calm down. This neo-Darwin, just calm down. So we need to get this. So how many categories did I cover? The first category was consciousness is derivative. That's Sankhya. It is Sankhya. Not hyperbole, not exaggeration. It is Sankhya because there's a strong dialogue between the East and the West. So if Aristotle is talking about all these four causes and Thomas Aquinas is talking about these 5 ways to prove God, it's not like completely mind-blowing because West and East were always talking. There was strong dialogue. Marco Polo, read his adventures. He'll tell you. Megasthesis. All these adventurers, you read them, they'll tell you. Very strong dialogue between East and West. It wasn't such a strong bipolar, bifurcation between East and West. It wasn't like that. Yeah. So that's all he did. So second, we talked about mind-matter interactions. Yeah. And third, we talked about morphology, gene variations. Kapila Muni explains very elaborately. Fourth, final, which is a bit complex, but it's very important also, the universe. The current scientists have explained it in various levels, like multiverses, cyclical universes, singular points, and this Big Bang thing. It's not really that big, trust me. It's been just pumped up and jacked to an extent that it's becoming disproportionate. These weren't really the real theories. The real theories were cyclical universes, the singularities, the multiverses. These had a lot of fuel, a lot of steam. Okay, different class. Why the hell did this Big Bang got so much steam and all that? That's a different class. So, where am I getting at? Stephen Hawking and all these people. Anyway, where am I getting? So, these are the four distinctions. So, each of these categories will need about eight episodes for me to explain and go through. But once we get this part, like we are a conscious entity, we are somehow interacting in this material world made of matter, and we have this potential in our genes, in our Atma, in our subtle body of varying into different morphologies based on, driven by our intention and will. Teleology. So once we understand these four, then it makes much clearer of our wanderings. We come into grasp of our bodies, what is going on with the body. Why am I getting these kind of inclinations? Why am I bound in this cage of inclinations, in these intuitions, in these modes, sattva, raja, tama, entropy, stasis, formation? Did you know there were 3 corresponding terms for this sattva, rajas, tama? Tamas is entropy, sattva is stasis, rajas is formation in the scientific world. So there's actually corresponding terms. So why am I gunas, ropes? Why am I trapped in this? Okay, if I'm trapped in this, how am I going to get back this versatile form which was my original form, Atma? Once you do this, then you're coming to satam prasanga mam virya samvido bhavanti hritka narasayana kata. So then you come 3.2525 where Kapila Muni just explodes and says, this is possible by associating with people who are doing their consciousness studies. We ain't going to get knowledge, we ain't going to get elevation of consciousness by I don't know, smoking some funny things, or by pushing needles into our nerves, or that's not how we're going to get expanded knowledge. The knowledge we're going to get, the bhakti, the devotional we're going to get, is by associating with like-minded people, like-minded transcendentalists who are committed to this journey. We have to associate. We have to gather together. We have to stay in this together. Doesn't matter how long it takes. But again, having said that, you'll be surprised, it won't be long before you will be in the spiritual world, you'll turn around and think, well, that wasn't that long. So it's not like some distant past or distant future. It is possible. You can actually be in spiritual world right here. Why wait? Why wait until we die? Why? What is this myth that we have to die and then we go to spiritual world? What is this myth? Can I break this myth, please? Can you allow me to break this myth? You don't need to. You don't need to die to go to spiritual. You can be in spiritual world right now, here. It's possible. That's the gift of Sankhya. You're in a Krishna conscious mission. You are part of Krishna's plan, and you have no problem being used as a dancing puppet in his hands and going anywhere and awakening every single person you see. This is our job. This is your job. This is our everybody's job. I know it says Bharata Bhumi Janma Hailayara. No, it's not just Indians' job or Hindus' job. It's everybody's job. So everybody we meet, we wake up first and we wake everybody up. You don't need to wait until you die to go to the spiritual world. Please, let me break this myth. You can live as an Atma, as a conscious entity. Do this mission. Pass this knowledge, this Sankhya knowledge, wherever you go. You're in a ferry, that's what you do. You're in a church, that's what you do. You're in a temple, that's what you do. You're on a holiday, that's what you do. But not pumping doctrines on people, but find a common ground. No, you're not like in a ferry somewhere in Queenstown, New Zealand, and you go, Param Brahma, Param Bhuya, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Dhavan, Ishwaram, Purush. No, don't. Find common ground with people. What are they struggling? What are they suffering? Connect to them. Connect with them on their level. And then when we are grounded in Sankhya, we don't need to be afraid that, if I associate with them, he's going to drag me down. He's Maya. What is he? He's a karmi. Okay, that's a good category. What about he's a human being? What about he's an Atma, conscious entity, and maybe you can help? What about that? So we don't need to put people into these categorical boxes of karmis and, Maya and, I don't know what else we're using these days. Yeah, let's just first become gentlemen and ladies and contact people on their level, understand what they're struggling with, connect with them, help them. When people see that we are actually helping them, when people see we're actually, it's in my interest to help you. There's a Christian person yesterday I met at Hornsby. I was doing books, and he came to me, and I was talking to him, and I was talking about how my favorite part of Bible is Ecclesiastic, and St. Daniel completely blew my mind away. And he couldn't believe it. He said, "How you know more than me about Bible?" And I read it cover to cover a few times. And after I spoke to him for some time, you know what? He said, you know what? If some of my church friends see me touching your book, this is the most sinful thing I've ever seen. They've ever seen in their lives. If I even touch your book, or if my friends see talking with you, ostracized, I'm the most sinful thing they've ever seen in their lives. So, but I want to take your book. After what I spoke to you, after the way you explained the common grounds between the Bible and Gita, I want to take your book. And he said he took my book. Obviously, he gave me a donation more than I need. And he took my number. He wanted to connect. And he said, I want to keep in touch, and I want to come to your classes or whatever. So what I'm trying, it's not like my self-aggrandizement going on. What I'm trying to do is I'm just giving you an example. Yeah, sorry, this is what I was going to say. I said, this is something he said really struck him. I said, my story won't be complete if I don't take time to hear you. My life story is not complete if I don't take time to hear you. He said, give me that book. I had Gita, the hard Gita. He said, can I have that book, please? If this is what your book is teaching, I want to have this book. My story is not complete if I'm not hearing you well. I've ripped myself off. I've sold myself short. I shot on myself on my foot. So please tell me. He spoke to me about maybe 15-20 minutes and he said, I want to get this book. If this is what your book is teaching, I want to get your book. Yasmin no dvijate loka, loko no dvijate chaya. Harsha marsha bhayodvige, mukto ya sach mein priya. Don't disturb others. Don't get disturbed by others. Don't call names, karmis, mayas, and all this. File common grounds. Yasmin no dvijato loka, loko no dvijate chaya. Don't disturb others. Don't get disturbed by others. Find common grounds. Uplift them, uplift yourself. Because our upliftment depends on others' upliftment. I can't go back to Goloka on my own. Pretty boring journey back. Maybe lots of popcorn. That'll help. Always helps. So, it doesn't work like this. We're going to have to find common grounds. We need to listen to people. And we can get this Sankhya into the Cambridge, into the Oxford, into the UTS, into the University of New South Wales. It is possible. It's not hyperbole. It's not exaggeration. It is possible. So, that's Sankhya, the 4 categories. Are you happy so far? Did I completely lose you and disturb you and deviate you? Okay, I might read Prabhupada's purport quickly. Yeah? Good. Okay, 33. These 6 opulence, wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciations are indicated here by Karda Muni, who addresses Kapila Muni, his son, as Param. Param, Iha, Para, English, Para, same words. The word Param is used in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam in the phrase Param Satyam Dhimahi to refer to the Samam Bonam or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Param is explained further by the next word, Pradhanam. Yeah? The English words like predominators, all those words come from the Pradhan. Predominations, predominators. There's so much Sanskrit in English. I can go all day. It's just amazing. So, Pradhanam, to refer Samabonam, Param is explained further. What did I say? Pradhanam, which means the chief, the origin, the source of everything, Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. I may have covered in the previous lecture, but Sarva Karana Karanam, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam, this is one of the most primary topics in Sankhya. And you'll be interested to see that Aristotle spent all his life talking about the 4 causes. Anybody? Any scholars? Anybody remembers in the university? 4 causes of Aristotle. I'll just quickly do it. Aristotle spent most of his life, literally all of his life. He was a little disappointed with his teacher Plato, because Plato was very yoga guy, very bhakti yoga guy. Aristotle was a little disappointed because he was. Okay, let's admit he was. We don't need to water it. He was a little. Because the way Aristotle was seeing, Aristotle's mind worked in Sankhya. He wanted to see causes. So he spent all of his life, and most of his teaching we can go on Aristotle, but I'll just boil down it to 4. First cause he talks is the material cause. The world, the nature, things, matter and all that. The second cause he calls is formal cause. Formal cause means the cup is there, the cup has got this shape because I want to drink. I don't have a separate existence from my sense object and vice versa. So the water is there, the form of water is there for me to drink. Or the form of space is there for me to walk. So he calls it a formal cause. The first cause was material cause. The second cause was the formal cause. And the third cause he calls is an efficient cause. So once you realize the first cause, the matter, you get your holds on matter. And then you come into this formal cause where you're interacting, senses and sense objects are together. That's what he means when he says formal cause. And he came up with something called hylomorphism. So formal cause. The forms are inherently available in the mind to interact. That's formal cause. So in Sanskrit, it's called chinmatra. If you hear this word again and again in Bhagavatam, chinmatra, that's Aristotle's formal cause. So the water is there for me to drink. The chair is in that shape for me to sit. They're all together, the senses and the sense objects. That's formal cause. The third cause he calls is efficient cause. Someone has to do, someone has to act, which is us, Purushas. And the final cause is final cause. So these are the four causes he talks about, Aristotle. So material cause, exactly as our Prakriti. Second cause is the, what did I say? Formal cause. Senses and sense objects are interacting. The third cause is efficient cause, where Purusha is acting. And the final cause is the teleology. For example, means there is a building, the plan of the building in your mind, and you're you're accumulating the bricks and the wood and the concrete and the water towards that plan that you have in mind, which is, he called it a final clause, which is a purpose. So now you tell me, how does this sound like? Material nature, senses and sense objects, Purushas acting on the platform of material nature, going towards Krishna, meaningful, like purpose in life, going towards a Krishna conscious life, towards Krishna deity. How does this sound like, gentlemen and ladies? Sankhya philosophy. How does this sound like? Sankhya philosophy. So they're really not slaughterhouses. The universities are not really slaughterhouses. Come on. Prabhupada may have said that in some room conversations, in the perspective that some people go there and become egoistic and do these mental speculations and turn people away from God. And that happened since Martin Luther started this Protestant Reformation. Until then, it wasn't the case. So it was just Prabhupada's response to this vehement, fervent opposition, since Martin Luther came up with Schola Scriptura and sola fides and all these things. But other than that, he doesn't literally mean like you go to university and slaughterhouses. That's not really what it is. We've got to take these things in context. So if you're looking at Aristotle four causes, how does it sound like? Material nature, sense objects interacting with senses, efficient cause, Purushas, and God acting towards a meaningful, purposeful goal. I rest my case. So it's not really slaughterhouses. We're going to have to work with this world. We cannot sit in our closets and work ourselves and become bhakti yogis. It ain't going to happen. You can try, take a long time. And there's chances of all these falling downs and all that. So we got to do this. Well, I'll leave the Thomas Aquinas 5 ways for some later class, because I think we are running against time here, racing against time. So Thomas Aquinas is very renowned in the 15th century to have baptized Aristotle. Aristotle was almost forgotten for the 15th centuries. Thomas Aquinas, he came and used the four causes of Aristotle and add one more to it, which is, to the four he added one more. He calls it the first mover, primal mover, which is Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha, Sarva Karana Karana. So if everything is contingent, something has to be non-contingent. Otherwise, how can anything exist? This comes from that comes from that comes from that comes from that comes from that. So how the hell did anything come? Something has to stay non-contingent. Everything, we can't just go like regress infinitely, keep regressing for the end of our lives and not come to a point where something is self-evidently, self-foundationally, on its own ground, stands on its own. It doesn't work. Philosophy doesn't work like that. This comes from that comes from that comes from that comes from that. So where the hell, who started? Like there has to be, and this was called unmoved mover. So to the four causes, Thomas Aquinas adds what's called unmoved mover. Interestingly, Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, unmoved mover. So they're just reading Brahma Samhita. Thomas Aquinas was reading Brahma Samhita in his own language. You've got to get a hang of this. I know 1 hour is a little tested, but what I'm trying to say is we can do this. We can do this together. We can use this knowledge. We can penetrate into these people's hearts. We can go out into the streets. We can go out into the institutions. We can go out with people. We can talk to people. We can understand them. We can give this, present this knowledge in a way it helps in their lives. What are people struggling with? What did I say last time? Mortgages, school children, children's educations, right? Traffic fines. I got a penalty the other day. I wasn't driving fast or anything. I just parked in some. Okay. So this is what we're dealing with things, right, every day. But we leave all these and we're dropping jargon bombs on people, Maya bombs and Karmi bombs and Kali Yuga bombs and like, whoa, lost me, fellas. So let's really get together. If you want, I can take those. I've been promising these 36 episodes for some time. If we can take some time away, do an online, go through step by step. I'll find some language that is that we use every day, and do this for our sake. Do this for our children's sake. When I'm saying our children, I'm not talking about Meera. I'm talking about our next generation. We have to leave a legacy. We can't leave them in a limbo. They go to school, they hear all this, they see all this world, they come home, and I'm doing Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Param Bhavan. Meera goes to the school and she's in Anglican school and it's all about job, just drilling us down with John's Gospel and Matthew and just drilling it down, and she comes home and I'm going Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharam Vraja, and the children are like, what are our parents doing? Where do these people come from? So for our next generation, for our children, for our new devotees that are coming in, we have to do this. We have to connect with this world. And I'm a hopeless optimist. Hopeless. It is possible. We are only just scraping this surface. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, the inconceivable oneness and difference, unleashes its power, unleashes the potential, this world will be dancing in Sankirtan. Just floating with the hands up. You know the chalice? In the Da Vinci Code picture, the chalice. Dancing with the hands of chalice. The whole world will dance in ecstasy with Harinam Sankirtan ki. It's possible. It's not so tough. Yeah? Okay. It is tough, but if you're together, then it's not tough. If you're together, if you do it together, it's not so hard. That's what I mean. So let me qualify. Yeah? So I might read the purport because I don't want you to go and ask for refunds. Where did I end? I bought my old glasses. Where did I stop? The material world which is moving under the spell of three modes of... Is that where I stopped? Past, present and future. yeah, he knows everything, past, present, and future. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, I know everything, past, present, and future. In every corner of the universe, the material world, which is moving under the spell of three modes of material nature, is also a manifestation of energy. I don't know if I'll try to read the whole purport, but I just think this is some very important thing that we need to discuss. I want to just highlight one more point here. Is it okay? You know, this past, present, and future, God knowing about this past, present, and future. We talk about this a lot, Trikalagna, Trikalagni. There is this strong opposition from the so-called new atheists, new atheism that has come, the four pillars, Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and Daniel Dennett. And now there is a female in there also. There's strong problem with theism is that if God knows everything, what you're going to do later, what are you going to do now, how does it become free will? How is it free will? If God knows everything. Is that a good question? How is He giving us free will? I know you're going to drop that glass. Oh, I know you're going to slap your child. I know you were going to murder him. If God knows everything, they're saying, how doesn't He stop murders? And how is it a free universe? How can you justify free will if God knows everything? This is a very, very strong argument for us. Us in the sense devotees and Krishna who are trying to spread good consciousness. It is possible. I'll give you a very simple example. Say if someone makes a movie, Avatar. I don't like that movie, but we'll take it. Avatar. The director of the movie, the cast of the movie, the people in sitting and watching the movie, they all know that those characters represent some other person in the world. Like for example, if I sit next to you, we're watching a movie, and I say, oh, that's not Smith, that's Brad Pitt. I know it. Oh, this is not this. I don't know. What are these recent actresses these days? I don't know. I'll use Angelina Jolie or something. Okay, that's not Gabriel, that's Angelina Jolie. Oh, you know what? They're not actually... If I keep telling you what their original lives were in a movie, you'll slap me and say, shut up, I'm watching a movie. You're happy to suspend your cognition of the originality behind the stage and let the movie flow. Don't we do that? So why is it hard that God knows past, present, and future, and He suspends His cognition for the sake of the past time to happen? God knowing present, future, and past, you haven't proven that He's actually invaded your free will. You haven't proven that. Yes. Say again. Of course. Pastimes, right? Yes, isn't it? Don't we do that with our children all the time? Meera comes and says, Sachi is the second one. She's a headache. Meera was such a nice... Sachi is a headache. She comes and says, Papa, I'm going to do a trick. I know that. I've seen that trick like, 200,000 times. But I'm happy to go with that trick. We suspend the cognition, don't we? So, if a director can sit in his own movie premiere